Hi, it's Deanna, and this is part two of the antique Victorian circa 1860s Civil War photo album. And what I had found, I thought this was an Ohio family. And I purchased this from Ohio seller on eBay. Turns out this is a New York family. So yes, this is definitely people that were faithful to the Union. And so let me begin to show you what I found out when I did a little digging by trying to pull these photos out of the album, which was very hard, I might add. So here we go. So I'm going to start with this one. And this is a very old photo, for sure. It's 1860s, with no doubt. So sometime in the 1860s. And this says... Well, this picture actually is from St. Louis, Missouri. And as you can tell, now how you can tell an antique 1860s photo is by its square corners. 1870s photos had more rounded corners, like, for example, like this one. See how the corners are rounded? Well, the earlier photos were square. And another thing you can notice with 1860s time frame photos is they usually had a little border going around them. So for example, this one has gold little borders going around. Some of them had different colors. And I don't remember what the colored borders denote, but I think gold had something to do with the Civil War. So as you can see, that's pretty cool. Now, here's another cool thing. I know I keep saying cool, but this is really cool. It has a revenue tax stamp. And the strange part is the card mentions St. Louis, Missouri. But the revenue stamp that was canceled was from Malone, New York. And I don't know if you can see that. Now, a revenue stamp was used to help fund the war. And photographers were actually made to have people pay for these revenue stamps, which was a tax, whenever they had a photo taken. So this one's a George Washington 2-cent stamp. And the more photos the family had them take, the more higher the tax was. So this family probably had quite a few photos taken. And you can see it was canceled in Malone, New York. So this is, I don't know what the, what the thing has to do with St. Louis, Missouri and it being canceled in Malone, New York. So unless this photographer studio had different studios in different states, maybe that explains it, but I don't know. I'll do a little Googling. Here we have another one. And this doesn't have any identification as to the photographer studio or the photographer. Now I did find behind this photo, I found this, and it says, before inserting the pictures in the opening, cut them to size of this paper. If they are larger, they will thicken the book to face the pages and make it impossible to fasten the clasps. Insert the cards at the bottom of the page under the edge of the leaf. And so now I know why it's almost impossible to pull these cards out of the book, because most people probably didn't cut them. So this was a guide, which is pretty cool. So they would place this underneath the photo and cut it to trim it to fit into the book. And this served as a guide, which is pretty cool. So I have an 1860s original paper photo cutting guide. That is just absolutely awesome. So here we have another Civil War era photo that I had showed you in the previous video. There is no identifying photo studio on this. I don't see it anywhere. So I guess we'll never know that one. Here's that little baby. This one is probably early 1870, or just as the Civil War ended. No identifier. We have this lady. This is definitely 1860s. And there's no identifier on the back. So this is telling me these are old, prior to 1870s, because as time went on, the photographer would put big graphics on the back of the card that would take up the whole card. The earlier photos were more plain with the photography studio's information and did not take up the whole card. So this is denoting, again, 1860s. This is that butt-offs? Budolph's National Gallery, C.R. Fay, Malone, New York. So again, this is denoting Malone, New York. I'm from Long Island. I don't even know where Malone, New York is. It's probably upstate. But I find that quite cool. And here we go. Now we have that tintype of that little baby. And there is no identifier on it. Here's another paper guide. This one doesn't give directions like the other one, but this is a paper guide nonetheless. Here's probably about 1868, 1870, because you can see the rounded corners. And okay, so we have Charles Ferris, photographer, Malone, New York. It says negatives preserved, from which duplicates of this card or any size or style of portrait may be had at any time. Well, they lied, because you're definitely not going to get a copy of this photo ever again. So, but at the time, people could go back and order duplicates of the photograph that they had taken, and that's awesome. And here's the Union soldier. Now, there's no identifier on the back except for it's a canceled tax revenue stamp, 2 cents, with George Washington. Try to get closer. And if you see like the little mark on it, the pencil mark, the photographer had to hand cancel it. So I guess I'll never know who this soldier was, and that's a pity. You can see the early borders going around it with little scallops. Here's a tintype of a baby that was hand tinted. This is very early. I think it's what's known as a gem. I can't be too positive as I'm not a photograph expert. Then we have this lady and a vignette in the center. And it has a tax revenue stamp and Malone, New York. It was canceled. So it was canceled in Malone, New York. I think it says R. Fay. So the photographers sometimes, instead of hand canceling them, they had a stamp, their own rubber stamp with their photo studio name, and they canceled it that way instead of by hand with a pencil or a fountain pen. So that is just very, very amazing. And last but not least, I was able to wrangle Lieutenant General Ulysses Grant. It's like a lithograph CDV card. And this family was loyal to the Union, as you can see, so they were Yankees. And so this is what's really amazing about this, is I really thought this was going to be an Ohio family. Turns out it looks like a New York family, and I'm from New York. And I just did a video on another photo album like this that turned out to be a Hamptons family, Hamptons, Long Island, New York family. So I got 2 New York Civil War photo albums, and I'm really stoked about it. So I may take some more photos out and show you more and dig into this further. So once again, thanks for watching. If you like what you see, hit the thumbs up and subscribe. And as I get more albums, I'll be uploading them to YouTube. Have a great day.